Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast, brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners like you to maximize your business value and achieve the exit of your dreams, whatever that means to you. With insights gained from over 100 business transactions, we share real-world strategies, lessons, and expert advice to help you build long-term, sustainable value in your business. Each episode is hosted by one of our Mastery certified partners. They're seasoned experts who've helped countless business owners navigate the complexities of growth, scaling, and building value. They bring first-hand experience, actionable insights, and a passion for helping you build a business that thrives. So let's dive in.
So, hi, I'm Dave Casey, and welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast. So, this podcast is really designed for business owners that are serious about expanding their business, making it really investment grade, and taking care of all the little things that they've overlooked over the years, and really building long-term sustainable value in the business. So, today I'm excited to be joined by Neil Katz, and CEO of Exceptional HR Solutions. So, Neil, welcome.
Well, Dave, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you today and talk with you and let your audience hear some of the things about the HR world.
Well, super. Well, tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to form HR, your company.
Sure. So, Dave, I've been in HR for over 25 years, and I quit counting after 25. We'll just say 25 plus, but I've been doing this for a little while. And about 18 years ago, I had people reach out, just friends, family, network, ask for help and support. And I was doing that here and there, and then here and there became a little bit more here and a little bit more there. And next thing I know, I'm having this pretty decent side hustle. And about 4 years ago, I was at a pivotal point in my career where I had to make a choice of what I wanted to do. And I was at the edge of the cliff. And as I love to describe the story to people, I looked over the cliff and it was darkness, complete 100% total darkness. And the question always comes in is, what is the darkness? I don't know.
You don't know.
You didn't know if it was good darkness, bad darkness. You didn't know if it was cliffs or pillows of clouds. And luckily I had an exceptional and still have an exceptional partner in my life, which is my wife. And she stood there and said to me, "What are you afraid of? Just jump.
Hey.
If you land and it's good, great. If it's not, we'll figure it out. We'll work through it together." And she's been just a great supporter of the company, me really going full time into this. And that was 4 years ago. And now we have a team of 20 people, and we're
Wow.
scaling and growing the business to support clients throughout the United States and in all industries.
Man, that is tremendous. What growth in 4 years. That's superb. Yeah.
We're proud of ourselves, but candidly, I'll be honest, Dave, we're still looking to help more people. We know there's more companies out there that need this support. And I have people ask me all the time, what is it about growth? It's not growth for me, it's growth to help these organizations achieve their goals and objectives.
Yeah, and it's funny that as you know, with Mastery Partners, we work with owner-led businesses. I would say typically small to mid-market size businesses, probably from 3 million up to maybe 50 million in revenue. And HR always seems to be one of the biggest challenges these business owners have, whether they know that or not, or accept that or not, I guess is the deal. So how do you see fractional HR services fitting into that ecosystem?
I get this question all the time is, when you start a business, you're not an expert in all arenas. And you should never be, and you never will be. This is why the fractional CFO arena started many moons ago.
Yeah.
And what we've done is the HR community is built similarly on that. And what we've decided is the need for fractional HR is recognize that there's not a need in these small to medium-sized companies that are growing and scaling for a full HR person or an HR team. So what we've done is we found a solution that says we'll come in 5 hours a month to 30 hours a week or anywhere in between to be that expert. And what's amazing about it is I can save a founder, a CEO, and executive anywhere from 10 to 30% of their time dealing with that drama and trauma of people that they just aren't experts at. And candidly, they never will be. And it's okay. Let us be the expert and let them get back to their superpower, their passion, what they love to do. And let's be real. It's not the people function. It's not payroll, comp, ben, employee relations. We got that. We can do it for them.
Wow. And if a CEO or any kind of executive actually measures the hourly value of their time, and then you figure out somewhere between 10 and 30% gets put back in the bank, I mean, that is significant. Wow. Wow. I'd never considered it in those terms, but that's a great way to look at it.
And
So,
it's really about empowering leaders, giving them what they
yeah.
need.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I've got to admit, I had a company for over 25 years, and we grew it. I think at maximum, we probably had about 30 employees or so. And probably the thing in retrospect that I did worst as a CEO is the HR function within the company. And I think if I had drawn an org chart back then, I think HR would have been at second or third level down in the org chart, which is sad when you think about it. Because I've kind of seen this evolution of HR just from like keeping you within the lines of legality,
Mhm.
making sure payroll's done right, make sure that filings are done right with the IRS, all that kind of stuff. It seems to have expanded now. It's talent management. It's really overall compensation strategy for the whole company, and compliance. So,
Right.
what have you seen this? I mean, is this? I know this big companies, public companies have done this forever. Is
Sure.
how unique is it for this to be coming down to the smaller size companies?
It's unique yet critical. And let me explain what I mean by that, Dave, is what it really comes down to is I don't see us as HR practitioners anymore. What I see
Hmm.
us as is we're brilliant business people with an HR expertise. So we're the experts in HR, but we're business partners first. We want
Yeah.
to understand your business, the critical components, and all pieces of your business that tie to, relate to, and impacted by people, and let us build the strategies, components, and successes you need to be that great leader, whether it be recruiting, onboarding, offboarding, employee relations, succession planning, talent planning, growth of the team, replacement of leaders as necessary, scaling the functions, expanding global operations or domestic, whatever it may be. Tell us the business and we'll tell you how to build the people parts and we'll support you so you can focus on the critical strategic outcomes, those goals and objectives operationally. We'll manage the strategic and tactical people side.
Wow. Wow. What a relief for, I think, a business owner. I know, again, going back to my own story, I mean, that was probably the reason we didn't spend as much time on it, is we were a little bit unsure of ourselves, how to handle
Mhm.
those things. And it's always hard to have, hard conversations, difficult conversations with employees. What I've found since been working with Mastery, one of the things we try to do is make sure each of our clients has a well-defined strategy on the HR side and document the systems and processes there. And I think one of the big things we've seen is that takes some of the stress out of those conversations when you've got documentation and a guide that the employees should be following and frankly management should be following.
For sure. And I think, Dave, what it comes down to is believe it or not, people want to be held accountable. They want to know what's expected of them in their role at any level. And it's interesting, we always hear our frontline employees or mid-level people. I'll be honest, I haven't met a leader yet that says, tell me what you expect, what you're looking for, what is the measure of success or not.
Yeah.
People want accountability and want to know that when they achieve success, we celebrate it. When they don't, we help them. And when they're not achieving those goals and objectives, those conversations aren't as difficult. Accountability, understanding the scope of what you need to do and what you need to deliver, and having those tools and resources are amazing for people. I always say, when was the last person you met that woke up today and said, I want to do a bad job?
Really,
It
really.
doesn't happen.
No.
So, how do we help people do a better job?
Yeah. Wow. So, describe a little bit. How do you guys get engaged, or what does the process look like when you run into a prospective client or a new client?
Yeah. So what happens is, generally speaking, today we've been wildly successful with a great referral program. We'll have vendor partners, people we work with, organizations like Mastery and others that will call us and say, Neil, we got a client that needs some people help.
Yeah.
We got you. And we begin with an intake to understand what are the challenges they're facing if they know. What are the
Mhm.
challenges they don't think they know? We'll ask their routine list of questions. We'll build a customized solution for them. And then what we normally begin with most of our clients is an HR assessment. And it's a full deep dive into all things people, compliance, policies, procedures, practices, programs, systems to truly understand what they have and what they don't. We'll then make recommendations based on that. But the difference for us, Dave, and many other groups we've worked with is we roll up our sleeves and go do the work. We're not a consultant, we're not advisors. We are your HR partners and we're your HR team. We will take on, run, manage, and support the full HR function so leaders don't have to spend that time in that arena and they get to spend the time on those components that grow and develop their talent, build strategic plans, celebrations, those fun components work great. And we know how to build a phenomenal HR infrastructure to support the organization where they are and where they're going.
Wow. Wow. So are there any particular verticals that you've seen that you guys particularly do well in or are engaged in more often than not?
Any business with people. And I know
Interesting.
that's, I mean, for us, and people are like, can you be more specific?
Oh,
No.
there's
I
probably a
mean,
few holding companies out there that just have a half a dozen people or something, but most people have
believe it,
people. So,
believe it or not, we actually have companies with two employees that we support because
wow.
they're building an infrastructure for the future. And
Yeah.
they know, as I say, I'd rather build it with you than have to come back and fix it for you.
Yeah.
So it's companies generally with between 5 and 500 employees throughout the United States in all industries. And the reality is, we learn the businesses we serve, and then we layer in the people components of how we support that company individual to their industry, their team, their company.
Wow. So I guess in the context of that, do you find yourself able to kind of benchmark, between, not disclosing any proprietary information, but certainly if you have an electrical contractor over here and you've worked with them, you can kind of benchmark if you've got 10 electrical contractors, kind of what business practices really work better, or what compensation strategies look like and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And what's great is we can share not just same industries, but cross industries, geographies, things of that nature. So, yes, we are able to agnostically, of course, without company names, share the data, the information, the knowledge we learn. And our goal over the next few years is we're looking at some different analytics to be able to share in an agnostic way to say, here's the trends and themes we're seeing from organizations this size, this geography, this area to tell leaders and help them understand what are the challenges we're seeing. And one, are you seeing those same challenges? But two, if you're not, how do we ensure you never have those challenges?
Yeah. Yeah.
So as we continue to grow, the analytics coming from this will be amazingly successful and value added for our clients in the future.
Yeah. So since you've touched on analytics, I've got a couple of questions in that area. So the company I had for years was an IT services company. So we helped organizations almost universally, much larger than ours, with their IT and everything from vendor management to implementation, training, and then IT services, where we were actually watching the store for them, essentially on the IT side of things. A big part of that evolved into cybersecurity. So actually, when I left that company or exited that company, I actually did several years consulting in the cybersecurity area. And of course, there's tons of activity in that area, unfortunately. So there was a lot going on and a lot of education, I think, of our client base of, what are the proper things to do, and when you're building, for example, an employee manual, how do you address cybersecurity and talk about that and enforce that kind of stuff. So today, of course, the big challenge is AI. And I've seen AI implemented lots of ways in lots of organizations, but it also looks like it can provide some challenges in terms of standards and practices and documentation. And all that. So what have you guys seen? And is it a good thing, a bad thing, a challenging thing? How does it affect you all?
I think the thing what I would say about AI is one, it's a tool like any other tool in the toolbox. I think what we have seen is I do think companies are behind developing AI policies and procedures. And
Yeah,
it's interesting. I'll ask an organization, are you using AI today? And they're like, no, we don't use it or we don't support it. And I'm like, okay, that's a problem because you're using it or your team is, whether you know it or not.
right. Yeah,
Um, so I do believe companies really need to embrace the idea of developing and implementing a AI engaging policy and procedure,
yeah,
understanding that that's going to have to be updated a minimum of every 6 months with the changes and evolutions of AI and AI protections and securities. But I
hmm
do think it's not going away. So what I always tell companies is we need to learn to embrace the tools we're given and to find ways to bring value with those tools. I was on a podcast last week talking about AI, and we talked. It can streamline the repetitive, repeating task to a point where we can eliminate job functions, not job people or roles, but eliminate a function and allow those roles to do something of greater value and impact to the organization. So the reality is, AI is here. What we do with it, how we embrace it, how do we bring it into our companies in a way that brings value and still protects the information, data, content that needs to be maintained is critical. But I do think there's a lack of information and education. And that's what we're going to see. I think the second half of this year into next year is a real strong push around developing the boundaries of what AI can and cannot do, but more importantly, what AI can and cannot, should not be done in the workplace. That's going to be the piece we're going to have to really kind of face the challenge with and develop those systems and processes and policies to outline that as well.
yeah. And I'm hoping that I know I'm still involved in the IT world for quite a bit, and I know there's some organizations on the IT side that are looking at that, just figuring out what should be a good standard, a good practice, and something that to adhere to. And I would imagine on the HR side, you're seeing the same thing because I know one of the biggest fear, it's always a fear with technology, but in particular AI, I think the fear is, well, they're going to replace my job with AI. And in some jobs or some roles, I think that's a very real fear. But as you mentioned, if folks are self-actualized, they'll find another role to fill and maybe use AI as a tool to to do that role and succeed much greater going forward. So
Dave, it's funny you bring that up. One of the things, my favorite saying I say is AI will not replace a role. AI is going to replace the person not using it in the role today.
uh,
So that's how I see that is that I don't really see this job being you being eliminated. I think if you choose not to use the tools given to you to maximize what you do and allowing you time to learn additional functions, functionality, skills, abilities, components of this organization, that's the people that will be replaced. Because
yeah,
the reality is, AI today is only limited by our imagination. It is amazing what this tool can do. And I don't even think we completely scratched the surface of the true functionality. And we're probably another mm, few years away. That number can be debated a lot, but I think as we watch what organizations are doing and how they adapt to it, and I think the other component that we have to wait to see is regulatory and government regulations related to this because we haven't seen very much yet, but I have a feeling we're going to start seeing this in the
yeah.
next 6 to 24 months where the government will come in and regulate appropriately what needs to be done. And that's where we'll have to pivot organizationally to figure out how do we, again, use these tools and maximize their value.
Yeah, I think that's that certainly we've been having those conversations with our clients in terms of what we do very much as you do an analysis and the intake you mentioned. When we work with our clients, we do a deep dive. We call it a transaction or transition readiness assessment, just to really see where's the state of the of that corporation. Everything from formation papers to any kind of exit planning they've already done, and everything in between. HR is a big component of that.
Sure.
I think we ask north of 70 questions in the AI section of what we do. And I think those questions may change in content and the way we do things, just as as this evolves. And when we try to dig into a company and find out how are they using these tech tools and technologies, and what does the impact have on their workforce, when they do that. So tell me, is there a particular um, level with the organization that you typically deal with? I mean, how do you normally engage with a new client?
Sure. What we normally will do is we'll engage with the senior leadership, whether that be a director, VP, C-suite. Generally, our key focuses are our COO, CEO, and founders. One of those groups will be our executive sponsor, our partner we work with. And then from there, we engage throughout the organization. We want to be HR at XYZ company.
Yeah.
And we'll engage with the individual contributor entry level roles to the managers, directors, VPs, and all levels in between. We want to be that partner to these organizations and be that true burden removing challenge that these leaders and orgs will face. And part of our job is not just the tactical, but the strategic, working with leaders and teaching them how to have some of those difficult conversations. What we do is we'll real play a lot of scenarios. We're like, okay, here's what's
Uh,
coming up. Let's real play it. We don't role play, we don't make it up. We talk about the real situation and
yeah.
work through it and build that muscle for that leader and help them become more comfortable to have those meetings and conversations and address those things that need to be. But we want to truly sit with them hand in hand and support them through their journey. Because ultimately, as you said multiple times, the critical value of HR is so undervalued today in the workplace that we know we can bring great value. And the greater
Yeah.
the organizations embrace it, the greater the return they get and we get.
And it sounds like you've got some cold hard facts when it comes to that, because I know I've seen. I was one of these guys. I was kind of a pushback on allocating dollars to HR services, just saying, boy, lots of these folks have worked here for a long time. I know them well. I know their families. We go on picnics together. We do all this stuff. So it's like it's a familiarity. It doesn't necessarily mean that I had sensitivity I should have as an employer or as a manager. So what's the compelling message that you'd have for how do you allocate budget dollars for HR? What should that look like within an organization?
I think when it comes down to it, you have to recognize I want leaders and owners and founders to be friendly with their team, but remember they are your employees. They're not your friends. And there is a difference between the two. And you have to remember as you scale and build this organization, as you grow, you become a greater opportunity for not the employee that loves you, that's been with you 20 years, that
Yeah.
will go to all those picnics with you. It's the one that's becomes disenfranchised, disappointed, not happy with what's happened. And when they exit, all of those things that weren't so good sometimes and many times come back at you. So what I would tell you is to allocate. I would minimally have a fractional HR partner. And as you scale and grow, one of the things that we built is the model that will actually, in an organization that needs like an HR generalist, we'll hire the generalist, we'll manage the generalist, and we'll stay on a very fractional basis to become your strategic partner and manage the tactical functions of HR. So we could do both. And I tell organizations to allocate and build programs that meet the scale of your business. So I have organizations that don't have a need for any on-site HR or an HR team. I have other organizations needs an HR generalist and then a strategic partner. So
Yeah.
anywhere in between there, we can support them and build a custom solution to that need.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the challenges of as you grow an organization, the roles and responsibilities change. I guess as you get bigger and maybe your clients get more sophisticated, you get more sophisticated, and there are people that kind of get left behind sometimes, and that or that become they're just not the right fit for that spot any longer. There may truly be another place in the organization that they're a great fit for, but they're not a fit for that particular one. And those are tough conversations. And I could see in retrospect it would have been very handy to have a professional HR firm alongside me to prepare me for those things. And again, you build a culture within a company. You want a culture of inclusiveness and
Sure.
friendliness and so on. But it is business, and you do need the right person in the right seat, at the right time, I think. And it's hard to unwind things if you start down a path, I guess.
Dave, it happens all the time where I say, what the person or team that got you from here and got you there isn't the
Mhm.
team that's going to get you to that next level.
Yeah,
And I don't mean that negatively, as you said a minute ago.
yeah,
There's a right place for them. But having that difficult conversation, getting that individual to recognize that they might not have the skills and competencies to take you from 1 million to 10 to
yeah,
100 million. In fact, generally speaking, most people don't transition through those levels. And this is why what I've heard, the numbers I hear is anytime a company 3X's its growth, each 3X is going to result in a substantial change of talent and people
yeah,
because you have to have the right leaders and individuals that fit those levels of growth. And not every person transitions through those. Now, that doesn't mean eliminating those folks. That just means finding the right place of value and impact for those individuals, but recognizing you do have to make those tough decisions. And
yeah.
those are exceptionally hard conversations.
Yeah, and we've even seen that with executives and entrepreneurs. Obviously, entrepreneurs
Mhm.
start a business, grow a business. It gets to be a certain size, and it's just a little bit beyond not even maybe their capability, but just what they get a charge out of. They get a charge
Right.
out of starting and growing businesses. And
Sure.
when it turns into a big business, they were like, yeah, this isn't any fun. This is the kind of business I left to go start a business. So, they'll start the cycle over again. That's why you see a lot of serial entrepreneurs, I guess. But
Well, and as you said, you got to know when it's time to step out.
yeah,
And there's nothing wrong to step out as a founder and bring
yep,
in a COO, CEO to run the business for you so you can do your love and passion.
yeah, yeah. Well, this is fascinating. This is we're just the tip of the iceberg with this stuff. So
Oh, very much so.
But so we have, we're this is the Maximized Business Value podcast. So we are really focused on that with business owners. So what is the one thing, the most important thing that you recommend business owners do to build value in their business?
Have an HR partner, have an
Have an
HR
HR.
fractional, whatever it may be, bring in an HR expert because the reality is I can save you time and money and grief and pain when you really need to focus on what you love. Let us do those components. We can build structure systems, but have an HR partner, whether it's us or somebody else, have
Mhm.
somebody to help you in that journey because you can't be an expert in everything. And the greatest thing for a company is to recognize you're where you're not and bring in somebody to offset that.
Yeah. Oh, that's tremendous. Great advice. And as you mentioned, you can start when you have two people in the company. So
Exactly.
I guess with one, you just tell that guy, well, sorry, you're not the right guy. So
Exactly.
that's a tough one. Well, Neil, thanks so much. This has been enlightening, and I think definitely our listeners are going to be all over this. Just that uh, the importance of this piece of doing business is just I can't be overstated really. Just I really appreciate you taking the time to spend it with us today.
Dave, thank you. It's been a great, and I look forward and I hopefully we've added value for your listeners today. And
Yeah.
the question I always get is how do I reach me? If anybody has any questions, they can connect with me on LinkedIn and or they're welcome to go out to my website at exceptionalhrsolutions.com. Drop me a note. I'll jump on a call with anybody and help any way we can. That's what we're here for, to help and make a difference.
Oh man, that's great. We appreciate that so much. So again, this is the Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners and on how to build long-term sustainable value in their business. Be sure to tune in each week, and we'll be covering a different topic. And subscribe to the channel so you won't miss a single episode. See you next week.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Maximize Business Value podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas on how you can continue driving value in your business. But remember, it's not just about listening. It's about taking massive action. Visit our website, masterypartners.com, for more resources. Grab a copy of any of the books in the Maximize Business Value series on Amazon or via the links below. And don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know how to apply these concepts to your business. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to relentlessly execute while you maximize business value.